Hey everybody, welcome back. Today we are going to do a quick overview and a tutorial build on the new F3 kit. So stay tuned and follow along. Okay, here's the kit overview and contents. You get XL sticker pack. You get rails, of course. You get 3D printed parts. These are all printed on MJF machine and PA12 nylon. You get a hardware bag with screws and gears and shafts and that sort of thing. You get the motor plate bag, which has your motor plate and some carbon shock keys and chassis spacers and a 2.4 millimeter drill bit. You get a spur gear, genuine incision 52 tooth spur gear. You get the negative G branded little baby prop shaft, and also included in the kit is a full set of 5 millimeter diameter titanium links. And you also get your choice of servo on axle mount. This version is in particular is a Capra, but there's also TRX4 and F10 servo mounts available. So you can make your choice on the site when you order, and it will come inside your box. So that's the kit contents overview. Let's get into the build. If you are new to Negative G kits, you should know that you can go to negativegrc.com and hit the support tab at the top. And there is a full set of instructions for all of the different kits available. Page 1 here is just some general information and some cautionary information at the bottom. Make sure you read through all of that. And make sure you read this entire instruction book before you start on your build. Page 2 is just kind of a hardware overview of what's included in the kit. Page 3, drive shaft length recommendations, and that is pin to pin on the drive shafts. There's a couple different options. There's some on Amazon that are available. You can check in the Facebook group to get some recommendations from some of the users there, and Conrad has actually posted the cut to length ones that he uses as well. Page 4, so the drill bit that comes with the kit is used to make sure that there's no support material left in any of the holes that you're putting screws into. You want to make sure that they're clear before you put any screws into them, and make sure you read the red text down here as well. So page 5 is the transfer case. Anyone that has built a Negative G kit before will recognize this. If you're new, these are fairly straightforward to put together, and I'll show you how to do that. So let's get started. Okay, so page 5 is the transfer case, so let's go ahead and get started on that. You want to pay attention to the assembly order for the bottom shaft down here. That's pretty important. And there you have your completed transfer case. Let's go to page 6. Okay, page 6 is the transmission. Let's get to work on that. You need to pay attention to this note. It says that the part number on this mount needs to face the frame rail. There is your completed transmission. So make sure you're using your flathead screws to put that mount on, and just be aware of the order that everything stacks into the bearing case here, and you should be golden. So let's move on to page 7. All right, page 7 is doing a little assembly of the main chassis rails and the body mounts and a few cross members. One thing you need to make sure is read your red text down here. Make sure you put the body mounts on before you put the rails onto the spacers. It's a lot easier to get the body posts mounted to the rails before you put the rest of it together. You want to put the spacer that goes in between the front body posts first before the other ones, otherwise you won't be able to get it in. Okay, that's page 7 complete. Let's move on to the next step. Okay, page 8, installing the transmission into the rails. You need to make sure that you use the 8mm screws on the outside for this motor plate mount. And you need to put half of the prop shaft onto the transmission, otherwise you won't be able to get it onto the transfer case if you don't put it in now. So let's do this step. And there you have the transmission installed into the chassis. That step is complete. Let's move on to page 9. Okay, let's move on to page 9. We're installing the transfer case onto the skid. Please note the screw locations. If you put the screws in the wrong holes, you will damage the transfer case housing and you'll have to order a new one. And also put the other half of the prop shaft onto the transfer case at this time. And there you have your transfer case mounted to your skid plate. Let's move on to page 10. Okay, page 10 is the links for the lower links. they're all labeled depending on which axles you are using. And pay attention to the lengths. So there's two different lengths of these longer links down here, and the long ones are the lowers for the rear. So pay attention to that. I'm going to go ahead and install all of my rod ends off camera because you don't need to watch me do that. So let's get to it. Okay, page 11, we're going to install the lower links, the skid, and the sliders all in one shot. So let's do it. Pay attention to the screw links. Long ones go in the rear. Okay, there we go. We've got our lower links installed, our skid installed. So let's move on to page 12. Page 12 is all the links for the upper links. I've already put mine together, and what you need to pay special attention to is the way these rod ends are clocked. They are clocked so that they are, if you can see that, you'll be able to see on the sheet as well. They are clocked 90 degrees from the other ones. So make sure you clock those rod ends the correct way. Okay, page 13 is upper links. So please note that there are spacers that go between the rod ends and the chassis, and pay special attention to which hole these go into. Should be a line on the instructions showing you which one they go into, and you can see the orientation of the rod ends on the upper rear links. And then here's a little key for you for depending on what axles you're running. That'll kind of give you a baseline. You can adjust as needed, but that's where you should probably start for adjustment. So let's get after it. Okay, there's the lower links installed. This chassis is going to be getting Capra axles in it, so I went with the Capra location. But there you go, there's all the links are now installed. So let's move on to page 14. Okay, page 14, we are looking at installing the shock keys. This is one of the unique features about this chassis. It has adjustable shock keys, so you can run basically any length of shock you want at any angle you want. The rear shock keys, there's a bunch of holes for adjustment, fore and aft, to adjust your shock angle. And the fronts the pivot is fixed, but you do have height adjustment on the front as well. And there's on each key there are 4 adjustment holes to move your shock around depending on where you want to put them. So let's install these shock keys. Okay guys, got the shock keys installed. There's the front, the rear. You can adjust these however you want for what length of shocks you're running. Full adjustability. So that's the end of page 14. Let's go on to page 15. All right, last page, guys. We're just about there. This is the body post install page. You use these 3x16 set screws to put the body posts in. And here's a word about the body posts. You need to run them as low as possible. So I'll show you an example. This is my personal F3. You can see I'm running these extremely low. These are as low as possible, and you have to trim them to get this low, but that's fine. You can just use some like flush cuts or whatever, and you can trim them to get them super low. And then if you're running a half cab mount, you can see here, that's how low I'm running them in the rear. I would also highly recommend running them, if you're going to run a full body on this thing, to run them in these rear mounts. I would run them, you know, maybe one notch up from the bottom at most, and then just trim your body to fit around the shock towers and slam that body as low as you can. It is a cheetah rig after all, so run them low. I just want you to know that if you run them at, you know, the tallest position in here and have them sticking way out, and you take a hard tumble, there's a chance they could snap. So just want you to be aware of that when you're installing your body posts. So that is the end of the F3 build, guys. So thanks for following along. If you have any questions, make sure you join the Facebook group or shoot me an email directly, support@negativegrc.com, and I'll answer all of your questions. Happy crawling.